Hello, this is Evie Sims from Baux Holdings. We would like to show you simple drying solutions. So what this whole concept and this series is going to talk about is that we talk about, how to look at effective drying solutions. We'll look at how to reduce moisture in a drying process. We'll also look at using, things like desiccant on airbeds and etc. How to utilize the best, most effective way in a drying process. It has to be logical and it has to be simple. This is what the whole series is going about. Look out for it. This is Evie saying thank you and join us. Hey, Evie, I've been told that big is better. What's your thought on this? Well, good question. In the IICRC S500, we have the standard for the water damage restoration. In it, will tell you the class of water, which is determined by the length, the width, and the height of the building to determine your dehumidification settings. In the past, a lot of people think that big is better. However, we've learned over the years through our more sophisticated way of drying, how we actually look at a water damage property and how desiccant dehumidification have actually progressed. We've got smaller units that are doing better work and more sturdier, and they're providing much better dehumidification process than some of the bigger ones. However, big units are very good for large drying areas, whereas it is not really practical in a smaller, say a class 1 drying of a property. In the past, we also may have bigger areas where they're more open. Some of the bigger units may be quite useful there. However, if you're looking at multiple units that you can use in all sorts of environments, is also a smart way of procuring for your business. For me, is that if I was looking at a job, I'll look at the carbon footprint that it's going to produce. I'm going to look at the energy it's going to save my customers, and I'm going to also look at the footprint of my vehicle. If I was looking at storm mode practices in my vehicle, I have to think smart. What is the footprint that I really require in my vehicle? I can consider having these little guys. They can do 1 room, a bedroom, a dining room, a bathroom. These desiccant units, $2,000, you can do the job quite easily. Then we've got different sizes of dehumidifiers that you can find anywhere in the market at the moment. The main idea is that look at what you require. Then look at the manual handling laws that are required in it. For this particular unit, it's 18 liters, it's easy. This unit is 25 liters, again, it's easy, right? However, if I was going to look at my larger dehumidifier unit may not be sufficient to have 1 person doing the job. So to answer your question, it varies on the request. However, smart drying business practice is required. In this series, we'll talk more about it. But look out for the webinar that Jerry Gibbs is going to come and talk to us more about desiccant dehumidification, how to look at sizing and such. It'll be out in the next couple of weeks. This is Evie saying thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Jerry Gibbs, and today I'd like to introduce you to these 2 new LGR refrigerant dehumidifier units from Ecor Pro. This is the EPD 170 LGR, and it's a great product. This is a refrigerant dehumidifier, so it's very different from the other machines that we've looked at. They were desiccant dehumidifiers, they're absorption. And this is a refrigerant dehumidifier. So this is a condenser dehumidifier. How this works is it's going to take humid air and it's going to cool it down until it falls below dew point. And at that time, the moisture that's in the air is going to condense on those colder surfaces, and we're going to get dry air coming through it. Most of us have seen this before because most of us have looked at cold materials like a milk bottle from the fridge, like a wine glass, with water vapor and condensation gathering on it. The inside of this machine is basically like the cold lager glass. It's cooled the air down until the air can no longer carry the moisture at that temperature, and that is the dew point temperature. So all of the humidity that was in that air is then deposited on this cold surface, and dry air carries on going through. The water that's hit those cold surfaces, in here it's a cold coil, is then deposited into a container where it can be pumped away. And that's the principle of a refrigerant dehumidifier. They're a very simple operation. Refrigerant dehumidifiers are basically the same principle as a fridge. They've been around for more than 100 years. They're robust and they're reliable. And this is a good, tough, robust machine. It's very neat. It's got a handle so it can be wheeled around, so it's easy to transport. It weighs about 31 kilos, but with wheels and a handle, that's not really that much of a problem. And it's also very easy to lift and easy to transport around. It's stackable, so that's a plus point too. It's very neat, it's very streamlined, and it's quite small and compact with nothing sticking out of the side. So from a restoration user's perspective, we're unlikely to bash this on door frames. It's a major problem for the restoration industry on a whole. So this is good. It's plastic, it's rotor-molded, it keeps its colour, it's wiped clean. It ticks all the boxes for restoration. And it's simple to operate. We set it up into the room, we plug it in, we turn it on, and we can largely leave it to do its own thing. Let's look at some of the specification that we've got on this, because it's really quite cool. It's moving about 475 cubic meters of air per hour. So it's a really powerful machine. It consumes about 500 watts of electricity. So it's not using a lot of electricity for the amount of air that it can shift, the amount of water that it can take out of the air. So it's taking air, the air that we want to dry, it's taking it through the back of the machine, and it takes it through a filter. Now this is a lint filter, or fluff filter. This is going to catch fluff and airborne particulates that would normally contaminate that machine. And this filter is very easy to change, very easy to clean, very easy to maintain. These machines are not really designed to work in harsh environments and dusty environments. No refrigerant dehumidifier is. But unfortunately, in the restoration industry, people subject them to that type of condition. So with that knowledge, this machine has been designed to protect itself. And if necessary, it can be fitted with a HEPA filter. And now the machine can protect itself. There is a compromise that does restrict a little bit of airflow, but it maintains the functionality of the machine that would otherwise be ruined. The controls are really quite simple on this machine. We simply plug it in and turn it on. It has a compressor delay, like all refrigerant dehumidifiers do, and it counts down, and when it's happy, the machine will start, and then it's going to start issuing its air from the side. If this were standing in a room or behind an enclosure, it's going to work with a recirculation. So it's going to take the air, cool the air down, drop the water out of it, and then issue air back out, which is going to be dry. If we wanted to work this separate from the drying environment, or if the drying environment is small, we've made a tented enclosure, it's really straightforward. We can put a duct adapter onto the air vent, put a duct in on here, and then duct that dry air into the tent. So now we have a focused drying regime. And that's going to increase the efficiency of this machine because if left in the middle of the room, it has to dry quite a large airspace first. And that's a waste of energy. And whilst that was an acceptable practice years ago, in our energy conscious world that we live in now, that's not acceptable. So all dehumidifiers really should work with a ducting and a focused drying regime. The dehumidifier condenses water vapor from the air into a liquid. And that liquid has got to be purged away. So that's quite straightforward too. We fit a pipe to the outlet, and then that pipe is unwrapped and dropped into a sink or a toilet bowl or poked out through a letterbox or discharged somewhere else. And that's the water that's actually in the wet materials. It's going to come into the air, the machine is going to take it out, and then it's going to be purged out of the building via that pipe. It's really as simple as that. dehumidifier is being asked to dry the air in order to dry the wet materials, and so to make that efficient we've encapsulated the wet materials. So in this case this is the wet ceiling and the wet wall from the leak from the bathroom above. What we need to do is to get the air from the dehumidifier into that tent, and by doing that we can focus the energy from the dehumidifier on what's actually wet and not have to try and dry things we don't need to dry, like the rest of the kitchen. And this is quite a small volume tent, and we're using this dehumidifier. This is the EcoPro EPD 100 LGR. It's quite a powerful dehumidifier. It moves nearly 500 cubic meters of air per hour, and it's using less than 500 watts. So that is an ideal drying system for this tent. All we need to do is to be able to get the air from there into the tent, and that's relatively straightforward. We fit a duct adapter onto the air outlet. We feed the duct into the tent. We take our outlet tube, because this is a refrigerant dehumidifier, and this is converting water vapour that's in the air into a liquid where it can be pumped. So we take the tube, we fit the tube onto the outlet, push and click till it locks. We take the other end of the tube and we need to put that into a discharge point. Well, we're here in the kitchen, so it's easy for me to put this in the sink. But I don't really want to just put that into the edge of the sink, because it's very likely that someone's going to trip over this, pull it out, and then it's going to leak all over the floor. So what I really need to do is put a loop in it, tie it into a little knot, hook the knot over the tap, poke the free end of the pipe into the overflow, and now the kitchen can still be used, the kitchen sink can be used, and if anybody pulled the pipe, it's going to still discharge into the sink. And that's an ideal setup for this type of drying.